What's happening, people? I am going to demonstrate to you how to start a basic Celtic knot design. We're working on this dot grid. This is I found the best way to line up shapes and get everything symmetrical and even. And it's an easy way to figure out how to lay out the shapes in your design. If you're not one of my students and you want to try this, you could find a dot grid online if you search. This one's big. Some dot grids have many more dots in them. Either way, it will still work for you. But here's what we're going to do with ours. So what I'm going to do to start this is I'm going to look up here in the upper left-hand corner. There's 4 dots that form a square. In the bottom right-hand corner, hopefully you can see these dots on my video, I'm going to put a blob on that bottom right corner of the 4 dots that form a square in the upper corner here. And then I'm going to do this. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dots over, including the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to put a blob there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Put a blob here. And I can probably just eyeball that and figure that my last dot goes right there. So I have a square formed. The corners of a square are my blobs, and that would make a square if I took a ruler and connected all the dots here. So that's how we start. Here's what happens next. I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to draw a line from the first blob in the upper left here across 2 dots and stop right there. So it's 1, 2, 3 dots total going down vertically. I'm going to do the same thing here horizontally. 1, 2, 3 dots over horizontal. So I got 3 and 3, and I form an angle here, a right angle. I'm going to do the same thing with the other 3 corners of my square that I made with my 4 dots. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 this way, 1, 2, 3 down, and quickly I will do that in the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. We are now ready to start a basic Celtic knot design. Cool stuff. Here's what happens. I'm now going to take my ruler here and I'm going to place it diagonally from the bottom of this line to the start of this line here. And you see there's a line of dots that go down diagonally. All I have to do is line my ruler up and follow those dots, right? I'm going to do the same thing over here. So now I have this cool pointy, sort of a rectangle, but it's pointed diagonal this way. And it follows the lines of dots that go around. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side here, opposite diagonal. Line it up with that line of diagonal dots, draw the line, same thing here, boom. All right. Okay, so now I have 2 shapes right on top of each other. Kind of looks like an X with points on the ends. I need to take these 2 shapes and I need to turn them into banded shapes that are hollow in the middle. What do I mean by that? Here's what we do. I'm going to put my ruler inside this shape and I'm going to estimate somewhere around 1/4 of an inch wide. You don't necessarily have to measure it, but what's important is it's the same all the way around when I draw this. We want uniform thickness. You'll see what I mean in a sec. So I'm going to make mine about that wide. Too thin, if you make these bands, turning this into a band here, a banded shape, if you make it too thin, it makes it a lot harder to erase because we're going to be doing some erasing to interlock the shapes. It makes it a lot harder to erase, and it makes it a lot harder to see if how your shapes are interlocked because it's just smaller and tighter. So we want to keep it about 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little more, all the way around. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to eyeball this to try to get the same width. We want it to be the same width or very close to the same. So I'm going to estimate about right there. That looks good. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to estimate about 1/4 of an inch or so, same width, connect that. And I'm going to keep going all the way around. It's a lot of the look of a Celtic knot design relies on the uniformity great word. Uniformity of the thickness of your bands. If you got one side that's visibly much wider than the other side, which is thinner, it takes a lot away from the look of it. So it may take a little practice and a couple of tries, especially when you do these points here, to get this width more or less the same, very close to the same visually all the way around. It may take you a try or two. You may have to erase. So there it is. I'm going to do the same thing with this shape now. Quickly, I'm going to turn it into a banded shape that's hollow in the middle. So same width. I'm going to do this quickly as I can. You should take your time and take the time to eyeball it out and make sure your widths look the same. You want to eye it up as best you can. Also straight lines, lines that are crooked, lines that go like this, where it's thicker here and it gets thinner. So you want to make sure that your ruler is parallel with the line you're drawing it next to. So if you cover up this line and try to draw the line here, how can you see what's going on, right? We got to be able to see, we got to be able to see this line in order to draw this line. So I'm going to eyeball it straight. Thickness looks pretty good, and there we go. All right. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so these two shapes overlapping each other, I'm about to turn into a very basic Celtic knot design. How do I do that, you say? It's a matter of using your eraser. Celtic knot designs are interlocking bands of shapes. It's like a weaving. They're woven in and out each other, over, under. If you've ever done a weaving, maybe on a cardboard loom with some yarn or something, you know what I'm talking about. It's over, under, over. The lines switch, you know, they're opposite each other. So to do that here there's 4 points here. There's 4 intersections where these two shapes intersect with each other. 1, 2, 3, 4. On these 4 points here, I have to do a little erasing to make these shapes interlock. So what I'm going to do is this. On this shape right here, this is the shape I'm working with. This guy right here. Now when I come over here, this is what I'm going to do. I want this shape to appear that it's passing underneath this one. To do that, well, let's do it. Let's do this one. To do that, I simply erase these 2 lines. That would be the lines that are the underneath, the shape I want to be underneath. I simply took my eraser and erased this line, and now this shape passes underneath this one. So it's like a bridge. I'm going under an overpass. I'm on the Celtic Highway, scenic Ireland's beautiful. I get to the overpass. I'm driving underneath, and I keep going. When I get over here, this is an over, so now I need it to be under. This shape is over this one, so now I need this shape to be under this one. How do I do that? Well, I erased this way the first time. Now I'm going to switch my eraser, and I'm going to erase in the opposite diagonal. This is erasing on one diagonal, right? These 2 lines. This is erasing on the other diagonal, these 2 lines, right? Let's do it again. I'm going to erase these 2 lines, 1, 2. I simply erase, and look what happens. Look at the 2 intersections. Under, over, right? So this one goes under, this one continues over. So it's a switch, under, over. So when I'm driving on the Celtic Highway and I'm swinging around over here and I get to this point, this point has to be the opposite of that. They switch, under, over, under, over. So let me get rid of these lines. So this is going over here. I cruise around here. I know it needs to go under now. If it was over this time, when I come around here, it's got to go under. So to make it go under, I erase these 2 lines. 1, 2, erase. And now it's going over. I swing around, I'm driving around, I go under the overpass, and I keep going. Now, you probably guessed it, this one's got to be over. So to do that, I'm going to erase these 2 lines this time. These 2, 1, 2, erase. If you look now on my video, hopefully you can see it okay. We have totally interlocked. Two shapes I drew separate on top of each other. Just by erasing a couple lines each time and going around, I've interlocked them. So that is the basic concept of a Celtic knot. It's all about the interlocking. So it's pretty cool. Now they're all interlocked. So after you do this basic shape, let's add something else, shall we? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put a line. There's two dots here in between these two shapes, guys. There's two dots. I'm gonna connect them with a line. I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna do the same thing here. And I'm gonna do the same thing here. Now, I'm going to connect these guys with a diagonal, just like we did the first time. There's actually two dots. Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 dots that follow a line that connect these. I'm gonna go this way. Now I'm gonna connect down here. I'm gonna go all the way around. Wow, this is getting dirty from my ruler. Sorry about that. Rulers get very dirty in the art room. Hopefully you can make out what's going on. Wow, it's getting really dirty. All right, so now I have this shape, whatever shape that is, and something octagon-like, I'm not even sure. I need to do the exact same thing I did with these shapes when I drew them. I need to turn this whole thing into a banded shape that's hollow in the middle. So I'm gonna do that all the way around. Let's do this. I'm gonna go quickly, so mine might be a little wonky. But what you're doing is slowly and carefully, because you want that uniform width, same width all the way around. If you rush through and don't pay attention, it's not going to be. I'm going to go all the way around here. Okay. So I believe we got it. Not bad for a rush job, eh? So now I've added a third shape. Already it looks cool. It looks like it's starting to get more complex. Process is the same. Follow this shape all the way around, and wherever there are intersections, you're going to erase either this way or this way, depending on whether you want this shape to appear over or under the shape that it overlaps. So let's start here. The best bet when you're making Celtic knots is you draw one shape at a time. You erase to follow it all the way around and erase to do the interlocking before you draw any other shapes. If you start drawing multiple shapes on top of each other without doing the erasing and interlocking, it gets very complicated and sometimes usually impossible to figure out. So what I'm gonna do, let's start this way. I'm gonna erase on this diagonal here this way. That puts this shape over this one, right? Over. So now I know it has to be under this one. So I'm going to erase these two lines this time, the opposite two lines. So I did erase those two. Now I'm going to erase these two, right? So we got over, under. This needs to be over. So to make that over, I'm going to erase this. I'm following along here, and now it's got to be under. So I'm going to do this. So we can see the interlocking, ladies and gentlemen, has begun. Over, under, over, under. Hopefully you guys can see all this on the video and I'm erasing enough that it's not confusing. Over, under. I'm coming around. This has to be over. So let's get rid of it. No. I do that a lot with Celtic, and you probably will too. Erase the wrong two. Check it though each time. Make sure it's correct. Under, over, under. I did it again. I want to erase this way, and I'm going to put this back. So we got over, and under. Oh man, it's awesome. Now I have three shapes. Everything is interlocked with everything else, and there's multiple points where the shapes interlock. Pretty cool. You can see how it's done. Not hard. Again, if you're not one of my students and you want to try this, search out a dot grid online or take white drawing paper and draw yourself out a nice even square, and then follow along with my video. Pretty cool. So the process is practice, then practice again, maybe with some circles and curves, another design, which I will show. And then eventually we do a final complicated design with multiple overlapping shapes, straight lines, angles, circles, curves, and shading, which I'll talk about later. All right, bye guys.